All right, tonight, Romans chapter 15, starting with verse 14. Now, as you start here until the end of the book of Romans, it could all be classified as a personal section. That is, personal comments that Paul is going to make. However, you can take these personal comments and you can divide them into two sections. And we're going to take the first section tonight. We're going to look at chapter 15, starting with verse 14, and then we will take the remaining part of chapter 15 tonight, and then the concluding remarks of chapter 16 next week. So now, as we go back here and we began, there's no use of going back and laying groundwork or reviewing, because he now has stopped his doctrinal section that we've been talking about, and he's starting these personal comments. So let's start right in, reading now with verse 14. He says, "And I myself also am persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye yourselves are full of goodness, filled with knowledge, able to admonish one another." Now, that does tie in with what we have just got through talking about. But he is commenting on them. He's giving his personal comments, commending them, telling them how good he thinks they are. Now, what he has just been talking about and what this would apply to, the context that they would see it in, is that he talked about how do the strong and the weak treat each other. When there is a big difference in what brethren believe, how do you treat each other? And he's going through and he's laid the groundwork and he's told each side what they need to do. And he's told everybody that you're not the judge, you're a servant of God. God is the judge, that we've been studying about. Then, after he's done all of this, he said, "And I myself also am persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye yourselves are full of goodness, filled with knowledge, able to admonish one another." So I said, I have all the confidence in the world in you, brethren, there at Rome, that you have the knowledge, you are good people, and you're able to admonish one another. You're able to work these problems out the way that I told you that you should. So it's a commendation. I'm sure that you will be able to do this. But, so now then he's going to start in on his comments here. He says, "But I write the more boldly unto you in some measure, as putting you again in remembrance, because of the grace that was given to me, because of the grace that was given me of Christ," here, or of God. Now, he's getting ready to tell them, here's the reason I have written this letter. So let's look now and think about what it would be. Let's suppose that we got a letter, the elders got a letter this week from some preacher down south. He's never been up here. He's never visited the Seattle area. And he writes us a letter, and he writes a doctrinal letter, and he says this, and then he writes some pretty stinging things. And he said, "Now here's the way I want you, brethren, to act. Here's what you need to do." Would you think he might be overstepping his bounds just a little bit? Had he never been here? Would you like somebody to just meet you on the street tomorrow and say, I want to tell you something, I think you're a good person, but, and then start in on you. That's just a little bit out of bounds. So Paul is going to tell them why he has written this letter. He's going to explain it to them. I've never been up there to visit you. I haven't seen you, yet I've taken the liberty of writing you a long letter. So now here he says is the reason why. So let's read verse 15 again. "But I write the more boldly unto you in some measure." Now he said, I realize that I have been bold. I haven't written as a timid individual. I haven't written to you as somebody that is giving an excuse for not knowing you and trying to beat around the bush on some things. But I have written unto you boldly, he says here. So now, I've written to you boldly in some measure, as putting you in remembrance here, because of the grace that was given me. So now then he tells them about the same thing that Peter did. Remember when Peter wrote his letter, he said, "I'm writing you this letter, even though I know you know what I'm going to say, but I'm writing it to bring back to your remembrance these things. That's what Paul is saying. Paul is saying, brethren, I know you know these things, but now I'm writing these things, and I've been very bold about it, as putting you in remembrance, and then he hits the key. So here is the key. Look right here. Why could Paul do this, and somebody in Texas try to do that with us, and he wouldn't get away with it? Wouldn't pay any attention, would send his letter back, keep your nose out of our business. Why could Paul do this? That's what he's getting ready to explain. He said, because of the grace that was given me here of you. So now, this is the reason that he can that he can do this thing then. So he's going to tell us here all of this, because it was grace that was given to me from God, that I should be a minister unto the Gentiles. Now, this grace that he's talking about, he said the grace that was given to me is his